everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. Ruben Amorim has been sacked today and there's already reports coming out about who the next manager is going to be. There has been so many briefs coming out, so much news coming out, so many reports coming out. We had Ben Jacobs on the show, he was fantastic. And there's a lot of credible reports coming out about who the candidates are to be the next Manchester United manager. And not only that, I would have my say. Look, today was supposed to be my day off. I was in bed. Next thing you know, I'm up. I'm going getting a coffee with my mum. I'm getting phone calls left and right. Ruben Amorim has been sacked. So I had to make my way into the studio. I needed to talk to you guys. I needed to get into this discussion because I know there's so many different opinions on this. Should Ruben Amorim have been sacked? Was it the right time to sack him? A lot of thoughts and feelings on the board and their decisions so far at Ineos. Let's be honest, they are very, very questionable. I've got a lot to say about that. But get your honest opinions in, get voting in the poll. I've put a poll up straight away about who you want to be the next Manchester United manager. Get your super chats in, I want to get into it. But there's a few candidates that look like they're leading the race right now. One of them is Oliver Glasner. The other one looks like it could be De Zerbi. But there's a few murmurs about other different people as well, and I want to get your honest opinion. The first thing I want to say is, look, I never, ever, ever want to wish a sacking on someone. It's not a nice thing. But I think this was the right thing to do. And if you follow me in the United Stand for a while, you know I've been disappointed with Ruben Amorim for quite a long time now. When we lost that Europa League final, a little bit of me fell away in my support for Ruben Amorim. I was there, I was in Bilbao. The performance was devastating. We didn't even lay a finger really on Spurs and we just let them win the Europa League. That really annoyed me. But I thought, you know what? He deserves next season. He got thrown into the deep end. Let's see what he's got. And the performances just haven't been good enough. He's tactically inflexible, in my opinion. I don't think he fully understood the DNA of Manchester United. And I just think the job was too big for him. I really do. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't other people to blame. I absolutely think Ineos have a lot to answer for. I really do. I think there's been quite a few bad decisions now. And if you look at their time at the football club, there's a lot of things that I think they should speak on. And there's a lot of things they need to do differently. There really, really is. And that leads me on to my next point. The next manager of Manchester United has to be well-researched and it has to be the right guy. They cannot afford to make another mistake. I think a lot of people wanted to keep Ruben Amorim because they didn't want the manager merry-go-round, because they didn't want to start another project and they were just hoping and hoping and hoping it was going to work. And they probably liked the guy. I liked the guy. In his press conferences, I thought he spoke well. But it just never was going to turn around. And I think they did have to make that decision. When you have a 38% win ratio, it's really hard to back that. It really, really is. And as well, the players are going to start to kind of question you. If your tactics can't win football games, the players will start to question you. It'll start to break down. So I do think they had to make the decision. However, they appointed him. And I don't think they did enough research before appointing him. The Ten Hag, keeping him on, fan pressure getting to them, and then sacking him a few months into the season, costing us millions. The Dan Ashworth situation, they spent ages trying to get Dan Ashworth, spent a lot of money trying to get Dan Ashworth, and then he's gone because he disagreed with getting Ruben Amorim in. There's even murmurs coming out that Jason Wilcox was a little bit sceptical about Ruben Amorim and his tactical setup. Even though he continued to back him when he came in, he was sceptical about it. So there's three, Dan Ashworth, Ten Hag and Amorim, really, really poor decisions and not very well executed decisions by Ineos since they've come into the football club. And they've been here for 2 years and it settles back millions of pounds, it settles back time. But what they have to do is not make another mistake. They have to pick the right next guy, who it's going to be. I've not got one guy that I can say I want to be United manager. And this is where it's going to be a big ask for the football club. They've got to thoroughly interview their next manager. They've got to pick the right appointment and it's got to work. It really has got to work. They have got to be successful at Manchester United because we can't have this again. We really, really can't. So big questions for Ineos. I think it was the right thing to sack Ruben Amorim. And to be quite honest with you guys, I know a lot of people won't like this. I actually think we should have done it quite a few games ago because you could tell midway through this season, he wasn't gonna get going. That formation wasn't going to work. His tactical setup wasn't going to work. I saw a run of very winnable fixtures. While everyone else is flailing in the Premier League, they're failing, they're not getting the points on the board. Champions League positions are literally open we had Everton at home, we had Wolves, we had West Ham at home, we had Bournemouth at home, we had Leeds, who actually, to be fair, have picked up a lot of good form, but we had some really winnable games to comfortably get us into the Champions League spots. And I thought if we did it beforehand, we had a way better chance of securing Champions League, because now, yeah, we've got Burnley next game, but we've got Man City, we've got Arsenal, we've got some really, really tough games coming up, and it's going to be difficult to get Champions League. It's still on the cards, thank God, but it's going to be difficult. I think if we would have done this quite a few games ago, we could have comfortably been in Champions League now with the squad that we have, playing it in the right way. So that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, but I don't know if Ruben Amorim calling out the board was the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't think that should have been. I don't think any manager should be scared of saying their opinion at the club, as long as it isn't disrespectful to the football club that's employing them. I think what he said is understandable. I just don't think he was in the place to come out and say it, because he didn't have that win percentage behind him. He didn't have success behind him. Even Erik ten Hag could say, well, I've won 2 trophies. Ruben Amorim didn't really have anything to show, this is why you should be backing me. So if they've sacked him for that reason, I think it's wrong, just because a manager speaks out against the January transfer window. I think that is wrong. But if they sacked him because of his results, because of the drab performances, because of the Old Trafford record, then I can understand it, and I'm behind that. So yeah, never want anyone to lose a job, but I could tell from around November time that I just didn't think this was gonna work. I wanted it to, but I just didn't think it was going to. But let me know about your opinions. I've got loads to get into in terms of the manager and the reports that are coming out. We've got so many super chats already in the comments. But before I read them super chats out, I just want to get in the first little bit of news. And this is what Ben Jacobs said on our show earlier. There's a lot more coming out as well. And it is that Oliver Glasner is very interested in the Man United vacancy. His priority is finishing the full season with Crystal Palace and then leaving when his contract expires this summer. So Oliver Glasner, you'd be able to get him in for free. So you're saving a little bit of money there. I don't think we should be even thinking about money. We have to get the right guy, whether they cost or whether they don't. Doesn't matter about money, get the right guy. How would you feel about Oliver Glasner? For me, I'm 50-50 on it. I've got to be honest. I'll get into why I'm 50-50 on it in a second. But there's literally zero candidate that massively stands out to me. Look, if it was up to me, I'd want to get Enrique in. Enrique would be my absolute top tier manager. I think we should have got him in ages ago. But I don't think he'd come to us. I don't think he's going to leave PSG. So that's off the cards. Out of the managers that have been put out there, nobody absolutely massively catches my eye. I think Oliver Glasner has a lot of plus points, but let me know your thoughts. And would you want a manager mid-season, or would you want to wait until the summer? Look, I would have always said I want a manager mid-season. I want to do the best we can now. But after what I've learned, in hindsight, with what we've seen with Ineos, with Manchester United, I genuinely do think thoroughly going through a manager shortlist, thoroughly interviewing managers and taking time to come to the right decision is the best way forward. I think if you can get a good interim in, and let's see how Darren Fletcher does, from now until the end of the season, that would put us in best stead to appoint the right guy that we can get behind, that we can stick with going into the summer. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. We've got loads and loads to talk about. I'm excited to react with you guys, so get your thoughts in the comments. So Chris Jackson has said, at this rate, Shaw will be our first non-playing manager. I think we need to get an experienced coach who is good at communicating his ideas. Absolutely. I think we need someone with experience. I think we need someone who's going to demand respect. I think we need someone who shows they've gone out and won stuff and they're going to win things again. I really do think you need someone who can take on this job. I think Ruben Amorim, this job came too early in his career. I think he was out of his depth. I think he was very shocked at how difficult the Premier League is compared to the Portuguese league. I think he was very shocked that you can't just come and play his system here and expect it to work. I think he was too stubborn with it. We need someone who knows the Premier League, or at least has the pedigree to show they can work in the Premier League, who has won things and who has experience and who demands respect. I absolutely think we need that at this club. Pat Lynch says Amorim was sacked for 3 at the back and calling out the ownership. Glasner plays 3 at the back and has been reporting butting heads with Crystal Palace boards over transfers. What are we actually doing here? And Pat Lynch, do you know what? That brings me into my point where I wanted to talk about Oliver Glasner, because I'm going to go through each manager and kind of talk about the pros and cons. And for me, I'll list off the things I like about Glasner. Things I like about Glasner is he's been successful everywhere he's gone. He's got pedigree. He has played different ways at different clubs. He's won. He's won across his career. And he knows the Premier League. The Premier League is a very difficult league. I know there's clubs dropping points all over the shop at the moment, but it's the hardest league in the world. And I feel like you need someone who knows the intensity, who knows how tough it is. So I like the fact he knows the Premier League. I like the fact he's been successful everywhere he's gone. He won a trophy with Crystal Palace and he beat Liverpool to it. Like, that's incredible. That really, really is incredible. And I like the way he speaks in his post-match interviews. I really, really do. And yes, he's clashed with the board a little bit at Crystal Palace, but I also think Manchester United need a character, a head coach who is going to be vocal about wanting transfers, about wanting to be successful. I can understand why Oliver Glasner has clashed with the board, because they were going to get rid of Mark Gahey when he had nobody else, and he didn't want that. He was in Europe, and now they're struggling, as he said would happen, and he didn't have the squad for Europe. And he said, if you want me to be in Europe, I need the squad. I can understand where he's coming from. So I don't think he's done it in a disrespectful way, but he stood up for himself and he's shown a little bit of a backbone. My concerns with Glasner, as has been pointed out there, is as much as he has played a four at the back in his career, and he has actually on record said he doesn't play a certain formation because he's like absolutely married to a formation, he plays what he thinks is best for his squad. So he's open to a four at the back, he's open to a three at the back. I think a lot of people just see him as a three at the back manager when that isn't the case. However, I absolutely do not want a manager now to come into Old Trafford and play three at the back. I don't want that. So if his plan is to play three at the back, I don't want it. I really don't want it. I want to see four at the back. I want to see attacking football. I want to see wingers. I don't want to see three at the back. So that's one concern, is would he kind of be committed to playing the Manchester United way, or would he want to play three at the back? That's a question I'd ask in the interview. And then my other thing is, does he demand enough status to attract the best players and gain respect in that dressing room? I think he can. I think he can. But I'm not 100% sure. And then if you watch the way Palace play, would you want to play that way at Manchester United? It's very much counter-attack football. Very much counter-attack football. Would you want to play like that at Man United? Would that go down well with the fans? I mean, if we were winning, I'm sure it would do. But there's just a couple of question marks there. However, I think he's a very good candidate, and I think he has a good few plus points. So, yeah, he's in the poll. If you don't agree with any of the options we've got in the poll, get in the comments which other one you would want. But I don't think there's any standouts at this moment in time. So we also have Savresh saying, people get excited for a new manager, that's why Glazers survive. Any manager that enables the Glazers to stay in this club longer by being their pup is an enemy of the club and the fans. And look, just on that as well, because I want to actually answer the super chats and get into them. I've just said at the start of the show, Ruben Amorim is not the only guy to blame here. Of course he's not. And I do believe a lot of managers would struggle under this current setup and the way things have been handled. However, there's a difference between here and here. Like, yes, Ineos have a lot to answer for, but also Amorim has not got the best out of his situation. His tactics have been poor, his in-game management has been poor, and I don't think he's got the best out of what he's got. I think a lot of Premier League managers would do a better job than he's done. I'm not saying they'd come in and be able to win the league. I agree, even Pep Guardiola would struggle if he came into Manchester United under the current setup. But he'd do a hell of a lot better than what Amorim's done, and a lot of managers would. So there's a difference between here and here. Amorim had to be better, the board has to be better. I think there's a lot of shared responsibility at Manchester United right now. And I don't think he's the best fit for Man United, I'm going to be so honest. Nick J says, surely we are not bringing in an interim that plays 4-4-2 for 6 months just to bring in a new manager that reverts back to a 3-4-3 is pure chaos. I don't think we will. I think we will go with the four at the back. I think that's what we will hunt out, because I mean, Amorim hinted that he thought the board and maybe Sir Jim listened too much to the outside noise, the Gary Nevilles of the world. If they really are listening to that, they will know that Man United fans, a lot of Man United fans and pundits are demanding the four at the back playing the United way. I actually think Scholes and Nicky Butt's podcast has had a huge kind of effect on how people are feeling. And I'm not blaming them for that. I agree with a lot of what they say. But it kind of rings alarm bells. Yes, I do want to play attacking football. I want to go for the throw. I don't want to defend after scoring 1 goal against West Ham, who are relegation fodder. I want to go and score goals, and we've got players in that team who can do that. And it's what we're best suited for at Manchester United. And Old Trafford deserves entertainment. Vaga says, Wilcox, Amorim over Amorim, clearly. I hope the Amorim outers enjoy the next manager getting battered by our amazing board. Do you know what the thing is? I wish we could. But we can't change the board. We can't change the board, but the board can change the manager. And like I said, as much as a shared responsibility, and I can understand people saying, well, if Amorim's going, the people that appointed him need to go. We don't have control over that. I'm just thinking Manchester United will be better with if they appoint the right manager next. I'm not saying we're going to win the Premier League straight away. I'm not saying that. But we will be better. And if there's any sort of percentage to make us better, then I want to be on board with that. We also have Camila Jeff saying Gus Hiddink for caretakers. Luke Cottrell says we can't sack a 3-4-3 manager and go for another one in Glasner. Malak says I think the next coach will be proven. Well, they liked that approach with Mbeumo and Cunha, didn't they? Average Angler says whoever United choose, they'll set them up to fail. Mr. Clement7 says the club has lost its soul. To sack a manager when he questions the people above is just hypocrisy at its finest. Like I said, I hope they sacked him because of the 38% win rate and the drab football, not because he spoke out. Eurovan says the club is rotten to the core. The next person should be clear that they will only be head coach, not manager, without any influence on recruitment. Question to you guys as well. Do you think you can be successful as a head coach? Because I think it's difficult. You've got to have 100% alignment with the people upstairs, and Amorim clearly didn't have that, especially towards the end. Because as a head coach, you know what sort of profiles you want. You know what sort of players you want. You know the way you want to play. And if the people behind you that are in charge of that recruitment and are in charge of big decisions don't back what your vision is, it's very difficult to succeed. So the next guy they do get, if they wanted to be a head coach, and Ben Jacobs has said on the show, they will be a head coach. That is the model that Ineos are using. They need to be in complete alignment with Jason Wilcox and the powers above. They really do, for it to work in any way. Pal Lynch says, speculation was Ashworth got sacked for going against Amorim appointment. Now we hear that Wilcox had reservations. Why was he appointed? Why are football people if you ignore their ideas anyway? Apparently Barada really liked him. And look, I do think that everyone at Manchester United is probably trying to do the best job. But what I would love to know is how involved with the footballing decisions at Man City was Barada. Because I've heard that he was very much involved on the financial side. And apparently he's excellent in the financial side. But does he have the insight to be able to appoint a manager, make a footballing decision? Because in hindsight, if he was the driver behind getting Amorim in, he didn't have full transparency about how much money he was going to have, or it was the wrong decision. And he's got to take responsibility for that. Look, I think if you would have gone and got Amorim and put him into Man City, there's a way bigger chance he would have worked, which is what Omar Barada was used to working with. He was used to working with managers. He was used to working with a hierarchy which would go out and spend hundreds of millions in January if you needed it, would go out and spend hundreds of millions because the squad needed it. Like, I won't be surprised if Man City go for a centre-back in January because Gvardiol got carried off, Ruben Diaz has had a few issues, you know, he doesn't seem to fancy Nathan Ake. I won't be surprised because Pep needs one. United would be like, make do till the end of the season. So Omar Barada is used to getting a lot of financial backing from the hierarchy. So he comes to United, Ruben Amorim might have been a brilliant appointment and he might have looked good on paper, but then he brought him in and the money to get the players that Ruben Amorim needed, the wing-backs, the midfield, the striker, the 10s, like the whole squad needed to be dismantled and remade, wasn't there. So then down the line, Barada's probably been like, right, so I've got the right manager in, but I don't have the tools to back him. And that's why there should have been more thought gone into it. They should have employed a manager that could have got the best out of what we've got and sold it over time, because that's what seems to be at Manchester United. I don't like it. I want hunger to win ASAP. I want everything but the kitchen sink thrown at it. I want to win as soon as possible. I want to see good football as soon as possible. But if you would have got a manager in that played a 4 at the back, that wanted to kind of play that 4-3-3 attacking football, you could have started off with the squad you've got and then slowly change that over time, and it would be a more seamless transition up to the top rather than getting Amorim in, who needed to dismantle everything from top to bottom, and we just didn't have the time or resources to do it. We couldn't afford to be losing this much for this amount of time. So yeah, it's a bad look. It's a really bad look that it looks like the club was misaligned on appointing Amorim, and it's a bad look that there wasn't enough research that went into it. And Dan Ashworth is probably sat there today thinking, I told you so. And there was a reason why Man United spent months trying to get Dan Ashworth. But then because he didn't agree with what, I don't know, Omar Barada was trying to do, he's gone. Like, it's very strange, because if you want people in charge, they've also got to be aligned as well. But also, you can't just have yes men. You want people to speak up. You want it to be a collaborative effort. So I would love to have an honest, like, sit-down chat with Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, and just know what went on, because I do believe people have got the best interest for the football club at heart. But are they being misguided? You know, did they think they were under different pretenses? Is there absolute alignment from the Glazers to Sir Jim to Barada to Wilcox to the manager? And it seems like there's not. There's not been clear communication. There's not been clear alignment. And I think it's been false promises again. And we need to make sure with the next guy that we've got a plan where everybody is aligned. And whether we'll do that, like I said, I think Ineos are really on thin ice right now. And another bad decision would really, 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 really turn the fan base. A lot of people are already frustrated. So the next guy has to be the one. Sean Marco says, this board have no credibility in their roles. I feel sorry for Ruben. He was always going to fail without receiving players for his system. Look, as much as I think Amorim needed to go, I actually still believe he wasn't fully backed. As much as you can say he was in the summer, you didn't get the specific wing backs, which are so crucial to his system. I know you can't do everything, but a midfielder was absolutely crucial. I do think certain things were ignored, and I can understand why he was frustrated. But also from Amorim's point of view, he just didn't have the track record to go in and demand them things at this point in his Manchester United career. Also, there's different briefs coming out. There's briefs that they already decided to sack him before Leeds, so that's why Amorim kind of went off, because he knew he was going out, or he had a feeling that he was going out. And then there's also, you know, briefs that Amorim was completely on board on the decisions made in the summer of revamping the attack and focusing there. So there's a lot of mixed reports going out. Of course, Manchester United are going to want to save face as well. So it's what you're 100% going to believe as well. But I mean, have you seen the video of Ruben Amorim today? Look, I wish him well. I really, really do wish him well. I would never wish anyone bad, and I hope he does well in his future job and in his career and in his life. But that video today of him, you know, out in Manchester, he had a spring in his step. He looked happy. And if you go back to some more reports that are coming out, Chris Wheeler, Man United staff at Carrington, were taken aback today after seeing Ruben Amorim and his coaching staff leaving the training ground laughing and joking. He's just been sacked, and apparently he's leaving the training ground laughing and joking. I think that shows he knew this was coming, and he's probably absolutely fuming to the point where you're laughing about it, about how the board has treated him. He probably feels like false promises were made, and that's why he's kind of taken the humorous approach to it. And also, Ben Jacobs on the United stand, he said Ruben Amorim wasn't concerned about mitigating circumstances in regards to the transfer window. His outlook was back me or sack me. So Ruben Amorim was literally saying in his press conferences, in one way or another to the board, back me in January because I need it, or sack me. And he knew that could be a result, and he took it in his stride. He ended up being sacked. Some people say, was he kind of accelerating the sacking and the payout by them comments? It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. Apparently as well from Ben Jacobs, in a clear the air meeting after the draw to Wolves, Jason Wilcox wanted more tactical adaptability and lowered expectations regarding January deals. Amorim was furious with this, which accelerated tensions. Amorim questioned how, with currently depleted squad, he can succeed when changing a tactical style. And look, that for Amorim, and that's why he probably started to turn, was the writing on the wall. He thought, I'm not going to get backed. They've given up on me, and I'm probably going to get sacked at the end of the season. I mean, me and my friend had a conversation about this the other day. I think they were going to sack him at the end of the season from a few weeks ago, and Amorim probably felt it, and he probably felt like he couldn't turn it around, and especially without backing in January, there was no chance of it. So he probably brought on the sacking himself. Like, he probably did, because he gives to me like he's got big ego, a lot of pride, and he probably didn't want to be hung out to dry till the end of the season for them to just do a strategic review and sack him anyway. So I respect the fact that, you know, he had a bit of confidence to come out and speak out about his position, but also at the same time, I kind of agree what Jamie Carragher said on Sky Sports last night. I don't know if you've seen it, but Jamie Carragher said, look, unfortunately, he just does not have the credit in the bank to demand from the board. Like, he just doesn't. If he'd won a lot, if he'd shown mass improvement, if he could show that his style could work, then yeah, I'd absolutely be on board and be like, you have to back this guy. He's shown you. Like, you have to back him. It's ridiculous not backing him. But I think the hierarchy were like, we've not seen you win games of football comfortably. We don't like the way you're playing. And I bet they started to think we're going to sack you. So I don't want to spend a load of money on you in January. I mean, you could have gone and got tactically flexible players that can play in both systems, but why continue to back a manager that you don't think is going to be here anyway? So it's a mess at the moment. It's a mess. Mario Franco says, completely disagree. The guy had 1 year and one window. Mario, I get that, but you're at Manchester United. You've got to show something. You've got to show something. He lost the Europa League final against Ange Postecoglou and Spurs, which, in my opinion, was just not acceptable in the slightest. We had the team to win that game. He changed the midfield. He put Bruno there. He took Bruno out of his best position. It just wasn't the right setup, and we lost without even laying a glove on Spurs. And then he got Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko and Lamens in the summer. Yes, I do think he should have got a midfielder and wing-backs. You can't do everything. And I think he's played Cunha out of his best position and not got the best out of him. As good as he is, he's still shining through, but I don't think he's got the best out of him. I get his frustration with not getting Ollie Watkins. That was a big mess up. I think it was a big mistake by the board for not going and doing that. They should have got Ollie Watkins, Premier League proven, ready to go now. So I can understand his frustration. But with the players he's got, with Mbeumo, with Ahmad, with Bruno, with Cunha, I know Mount's barely fit, so it's hard to include him. But with them players, De Ligt, Martinez, I know he's only just come back and De Ligt's got injured, but with the players we've got, he should have been playing better football. He should have shown something a little bit better, and we've just unfortunately not. So, and then that's my take. You're completely entitled to your own opinion. Flash 90 centimetre says, don't like any of that shortlist. Conte for me. God, I love Conte, but it's just never going to happen. Ross says, sack who appointed him in the first place, so there's accountability on all fronts. We'll get Glasner because he's cheap due to the contract situation. I mean, we've got loads of super chats coming in right now. Trish says, Ajax job already lined up for Ruben. Eurovan says, it's highly possible that the next person will be an Ineos plus Glazer pleaser and would be more than happy to comply with their ridiculous requests. Eric Cantuna says, Amorim wasn't fully backed, but he didn't help himself. He insisted in keeping Bruno and tactically weakening the team by playing him out of position. Shahin, I'm so excited, by the way. A few things I'm excited for. See Bruno Fernandes in a more advanced role, please. And to see Kobbie Mainoo play football. I'm so excited to see Kobbie Mainoo play football. I bet he got out of bed with a spring in his step and said, get me to physio and get me back in shape ASAP. He's sort of player that the club's built around, and I can't wait to see him play again. Shahin says, getting 50 million for not working, I'd be laughing too. He wanted the payout, you could tell. I mean, what happened to walking away with no compensation, which what he said after the Europa League final? I mean, I don't expect him to do that. I wouldn't walk away from a £15 million payout either. Just saying, I really wouldn't. So, but he said a few things and not followed through with him, hasn't he? Not I. Greg says, what are you saying? At the beginning of the season, the ceiling of expectation was minimum Europa, and he got sacked 5th/6th. Look, I've seen this a lot, and my take on this is, look, yes, we're 6th in the Premier League, and I know the expectation was Europa League at the beginning of the season, but look at the clubs around us and look at our points record and look at our performances. You've got to take in all factors. If, with the points we're on now, if you put us on the same trajectory for the rest of the season with Ruben Amorim, and look at the fixtures we've got as well, they're pretty tough, but if you put us on the same trajectory from where we're at now, the points we are on now till the end of the season, and married it with last year's Premier League season, we would have finished in last year's Premier League season around 9th or 8th. That's not acceptable. This season, you might have a crack at 6th or 7th, right? Still not acceptable for Manchester United, but say if you got 5th, so not 5th, say if you got 6th and you got Europa League place, that was the expectation, but there's loads of other things in play. Nobody expected Liverpool to fall off the way they did, Chelsea to have a disruptive season the way that they have, and for the Premier League to just be dropping points all over the shop. There was prime opportunity with that Manchester United squad to get into the Champions League with the fixtures that we've had. And the performances have not been good enough. They've not. And you've got to look at all aspects of it. And a lot of managers would have done better in that situation. So, yeah, okay, people can say we're 6th and there's still a chance for Champions League football, but there's only a few points between 11th in the Premier League. Let me get it up now. So where we are, and things can change very quickly, and look at the fixtures we've got coming up. So if you look at the actual Premier League table now, we are 6th in the Premier League with 31 points, right? 31 points. Everton are in 12th on 28 points. So Everton, who are 3 points behind us, are in 12th. We're in 6th on 31 points. There's 3 points between 6th and 12th. You just can't risk it with the performances that we're having. Tottenham, 27 points in 13th. Palace in 14th with 27 points. That's 4 points between 6th and 14th. We could have ended up in 14th in no time, genuinely. So, yes, okay, we're 6th, but it's so tight at the minute in the Premier League with the way we're playing. I don't understand how people could back that, really. It just wasn't enough for what we had. T-Lot Maresca said Emery, deserve it, or Nagelsmann are the only choices. Well, apparently Christopher Vivell is set to take a big role in appointing the next manager, and hopefully he can do a better job than Omar Barada, because I think Nagelsmann is someone who could come up if it's Vivell. Emery is really interesting. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. Officers in Charge says, but Glasner played the 3-4-3 system. Rob McCormack says, we will be fine long term with the right guy, no doubts. Robert T says, honestly think Maresca would do a good job, but I agree with Beth. If I see 3 at the back one more time in my life, I'm fully crashing out. If we got a new manager in and the first lineup was 3 at the back, I'd say cut the cameras. I can't do it again. I need to see 4 at the back at Old Trafford. I'm excited to see it actually under Darren Fletcher for these few games. By the way, I just want to put it out there. I've seen a lot of people go in on Darren Fletcher being the interim. Why are we bothered about Darren Fletcher being the interim for a few games? He knows the club through and through. He's been behind the scenes at Manchester United for a long time. Apparently he was the guy who convinced Erik ten Hag to tactically change his setup for that FA Cup final where we beat Manchester City. He knows the club's DNA. No one said he's going to be permanent manager of Manchester United. But he knows the club, he knows the players, he's got that relationship. For a few games, I think it's perfectly acceptable. And I hope he does well. He's one of our own. Let's hope he does well for a few games. No one's saying he's going to be the permanent manager of Manchester United. They might get Carric in. After Fletcher's been there for a few games, they might get Carric in till the end of the season with Fletcher. When Carric was last time interim, he did a good job. But the thing is, I would happily see Fletcher and Carric take it until the end of the season if they can do a decent job. And I think they actually could maybe get us Champions League football. But there should be no cause for that to be a permanent thing in the summer. I would love to see them do well and then, kind of maybe Fletcher goes back to the coaching staff, or who knows what would happen with Michael Carric. But I think they'd work well together. I think they'd be a stable pairing just for now until the end of the season to get us, hopefully, into Champions League football. I want to make the right decision with the next manager, and if it takes until the summer to do that, then that's what we'll have to do. WJF says, sorry, the interference, the board are untouchable, feels defeatist. Fans do have agency, especially financial. Look, I've just been here too many times before. It's really, really difficult. It's really difficult. How many protests have we had in the past? How many times have people spoke up? And I don't want to be defeatist about it, but it's one of them where they are going to be here. They are going to be here for at least a couple of years unless the Glazers decide to buy them out and sell up shop. And let's just see what happens with it. Slow Spots News says, Beth, I'm gutted about Amorim, but look at our win ratio. Ridicule me, but numbers don't lie. Since Sir Alex, Amorim 36%, Ollie, Eric and Louis 51%, Mourinho 53%. Once Woozy says, Jose Bordless, currently Getafe, a sick, twisted part of my mind wants him to be manager. We've put someone forward. Big Sam says they should employ a scapegoat. Maud says, we could get another manager who will perform better than Amorim. That implies top 4 or competing for the league. What makes Beth think that is current squad or ownership we can get such? Look, I'm not saying a different manager is going to come in and win the Premier League with this team, but I think they can have a better win ratio than 38%. And I think we can see better performances. Look, as much as I want us to be in the Champions League, another big thing for me is I go to Old Trafford every single time there's a game at Old Trafford. I want to watch a good performance. I want to see us score goals. I want to see us defend well. I want to see a proper put-together performance. And Amorim's had a lot of time to show that, and it's been really, really, really tough. Like, people really went in on Ten Hag, and as much as I don't think Ten Hag could have seen us through to win a Premier League, and in the league it got untenable, I had some of my best times under him. I went to a cup final 3 times. We won 2 of them. Like that, they were some of my best times as a United fan in recent years because I'm quite a young United fan. So I just wanted to see something to get me off my seat, get me excited. Ben Thornton said, go and get Emery in the summer. He's a top coach. Prelec Natori says, Gary Neville as manager and Carragher as assistant. They seem to know everything. Well, that's not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. Jim Jones, job swap with Celtic. No, that's not going to happen. C7331 says, Amorim was the guy. He cleared the toxic people, got 2 good signings, 6th, being demanded short-term results, but given 22-year-old project. Look at Arteta. Honestly, I don't buy the Arteta argument. I use the Arteta argument with Ten Hag, but with Arteta, you could kind of see what was happening. With Amorim, I just don't think it was ever going to get there. But it's everyone's opinions. I also really didn't like the way he handled Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo is Manchester United through and through. He's an extremely talented footballer. I didn't want to lose him. And people will say that's player power. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. It's noticing a player's abilities and their love for the football club and the fact they've been at the football club for a very young age. They're an example of what a Manchester United player should be. An academy graduate, super talented. And I don't think he handled that situation well. There's a lot of situations I just don't think he handled well. His in-game management sent me up the wall at times. There's just a lot of things that... It was a lot of little things that built up for me that showed he wasn't going to get there, in my opinion. Whereas when I was watching Arteta with Arsenal, even when they were losing, I could see things he was doing which made me think they're going to get there. But with Amorim, I just couldn't see it in the end. I wanted to really bad. Nick J says, so Ineos backed a 4-4-2 manager just to sack him mid-season for a 3-4-3 manager just to sack him for a 4-4-2 interim mid-season just to hire another 3-4-3 manager next season. Ineos masterclass. Look, I don't think they are going to go for a 3-4-3. I don't think they will. Sashin says, this leadership only wants a yes man. Absolutely hurts to say, but any proper manager will fail under this leadership and ownership, Glasner included. Pran Malik says, no manager will help us. We all know that. I will bore you by using all 3 super chats to say, Glazer, Ineos out, or our board doesn't have United pedigree. You will never bore us with your membership. You've earned that right with your membership, so thank you for contributing. WGFVH says, Amorim realised he needed Premier League proven players, wanting Watkins, demanding a Premier League centre mid, wasn't backed. Sigh. Chrissy S says, with this structure/model, no one will succeed. Football people and businessman will never click. Hire a manager, not a head coach. Rohit J says, Roy Keane in and pay for Enrique. We need the best. You get what you pay for. If it's not Pep, who is the next best? Enrique transformed PSG. I would absolutely love Enrique, but I just don't think United have the capabilities to go and get that sort of player. Not that sort of player. I don't think United have the capabilities to go and get that sort of manager. I wish we did. Enrique would be my top choice. Fantastic manager. And the only one I'd be like 100% yes. But I just don't think we've got it in us to go and get him. There's been I'll answer, there's so many super chats coming in, but I've got a little bit more to talk about as well. And Unai Emery. What are everyone's thoughts and feelings on Unai Emery? Because I don't know if he'd leave Aston Villa. I don't know if he would. And I understand the argument that he had a chance at a big club in Arsenal and he didn't kind of take it. I do think he had a very short period at Arsenal though, and it was just a misaligned appointment from the very, very start. Unai Emery, for me, I think he's a brilliant coach. I've got to be honest. If tomorrow morning, I think it was a rushed decision, but if in the future the next manager was announced after Amorim to be Unai Emery, I'd say, I think you've made a good choice. And I'm not 100% there because I've got so many reservations now about everyone because it has to be right. And, you can bring in the time at Arsenal and think, oof, that could happen again at United. But what he's done at Villa is nothing short of sensational. He gets the best out of his players. He is brilliant tactically. He goes for the throat. He's not afraid to take risks. He goes out there to win games of football. I really, really like watching Aston Villa play. And I think where he's brought them from, which is touching on the relegation zone under Gerrard, to Champions League football, competing for a Premier League this season, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. The only thing is, PSG, Arsenal, he has gone to big clubs and not been as successful as you would have wanted him to. So it's like, can he take in the United job? Can he handle the United job? I'm not sure. So that's where I'm on the fence a little bit with Emery, is on paper, when I look at him, wow, fantastic. I think he knows his football. I think he knows his players. I think he gets the best out of players. And I think his football's great. But the little bit in my head, like, the kind of devil on your shoulder is saying, look at Arsenal, look at PSG. Like, can he do it at a big club, like a proper big club? And Aston Villa's a big club. I don't want to be disrespectful, and he's done a cracking job for Aston Villa. But can he do it at United? It's huge, huge, huge ask. It really is. Chrissy5937 says, to be a club in transition, you have to start again. We never did. Rashford was so right on that comment. I get that, but are you starting again with the right manager? I've spoke about this a little bit before. Say if you get married and you're really happy at the beginning and you think it's going to work out really well, and you have it in your mind you don't want to get divorced. You want to have one successful, happy marriage in your life, and then like a year into it, it's just not working. It's not working at all, and you don't feel like it's going to work, and you're just not on the same page. Do you keep going with that and keep going with that and keep going with that, or do you end it and start afresh? Because as much as I do want to back one project and get on board with one project and not have this manager merry-go-round, it has to be the right project. And I genuinely believe if we kept going and going and going with Ruben Amorim, I don't think the fan base had the patience for how many years it was going to take. We need someone who can accelerate the trajectory and get us up there quicker and get us up competing quicker. And I just don't think Amorim's project was going to do that, personally. I just don't. I know it's I know that's a very, very simple analogy compared to like what goes on in football, and there's more to it, but I just don't think, as much as we want to stick to one project, I don't think that was a project we should have stuck to. Shenanigan says, Emery never promotes academy and he's one of the most pragmatic managers in the league. Attack, attack, attack will be sung every week. Big mistake. From what I've seen of Emery is, yes, he can hold out, but he also can go and attack a game. When he played Arsenal a few weeks ago, not last time, but the time before that, he brought on attacking subs to go and win that game because he felt like it was there to be won. I think he's made some really good in-game decisions. I think his results speak for themselves, but I do actually share some apprehension about that the same way you guys do. There's no one that fully stands out to me. Maresca, how do we all feel about Maresca? Because it came in earlier that Maresca is interested in becoming the new Manchester United head coach. Reminder, he previously worked with Jason Wilcox in Manchester City. And then Ben Jacobs also said on the show earlier, when Chelsea originally made their move to appoint Enzo Maresca, they did so quickly as they thought Man United would be interested in him as well. So Man United apparently were interested in Maresca even before Chelsea got him, and there's now more links to Maresca, probably because he's out of a job. I think he's waiting for the City job. I think City suits him. I don't know if he could take on the giant that is Manchester United. And I'm not saying that as if Man City isn't a giant, but Man City is nowhere near the size of the club Man United is. But Man City actually have their ducks in a row. They have things sorted from top to bottom. Pep is going to leave that club with the team in good shape, good players, and he'll have a budget to work with, and he has staff that he knows. Coming into Man United is a different kettle of fish. We're all over the shop. He's probably not going to get the same level of decision-making as he wants. Ineos have made it clear they want a head coach. I don't think that's the best way forward. I think a manager should be able to manage. I do think there should be recruitment that can step in, of course, and I do think there should be, a sporting director that can do their roles, absolutely. But I think a manager should be able to, have a really big say on a lot of their decisions. Whether Maresca would get that at United, what he wants, because he called that out at Chelsea, I'm not sure. What I will say is I do think Maresca's been a little bit disrespected online. I really do. He would do a better job than what we've currently got, I think. But he's not a standout candidate to me. He, won the Conference League with Chelsea, got them back into Champions League football. He won the Club World Cup. He's had really good performances against top teams, PSG being one of them. And he dealt with a bloated Chelsea squad with a lot of egos. I mean, there was even talks of, the board, kind of telling him who to put in the starting lineup and who to rest, who to rotate. That didn't happen at United. I'm 100% sure of it, or 99% sure of it. But imagine that. And he still managed to do pretty well. And the transfers he got were woeful, in my opinion, apart from a couple. So I think Maresca is a good manager, but I think he's way more suited and way better prepared to do well at Man City rather than Man United. I just don't think he could take on the absolute enormity, which is Manchester United right now, and what that would need. I don't know. Let me know what you think on that one. We have Josh O'Fair says, the Sunderland manager, Regis Labrie, thoughts. No, not for me. He's doing brilliantly at Sunderland, and let's let that continue. He's not got enough pedigree for me, personally. Parker Oakey says, other than pedigree, there's no logical reason a manager should join us. We have Chrissy5937 says, to be a club in transition, you have to start one. We never did. Rashford was so right. I've done that one. Thank you very much. Hypnatic Vanti says, Glasner, get Conte, Emery or Xavi in. Joe and Carlson says, for me, Eddie Howe ticks every box. Do you know what's mad? You know, my dad rang me up this morning and said, do you think Eddie Howe will get a chance here? And I said, no. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Eddie Howe's done a good job at Newcastle, especially under the circumstances. He plays entertaining football. I like him and I like his approach, but I don't think he's good enough for the Man United job. I don't think he could take on the enormity of the Man United job. It takes a special kind of person to take on that United job. Eddie Howe, he's done really, really well, and I think he's a good manager. But you need the absolute elite, and they've got to tick every box to be United manager. The boxes that I would look for the next Manchester United manager to tick are experience, demands respect, wants to play attacking football, will be authoritative, you know, can understand the Manchester United DNA, promotes youth, someone who gets us off our seat at Old Trafford, someone who can deliver good performances, you know, someone who can comfortably rise us up the table, someone that has experience. I really think experience is needed in the next manager massively. You know, good amounts of experience I think is needed. So that's what I'm looking for. And I just don't think Eddie Howe ticks every single one of them boxes. Omu says, if Wilcox and co would have done their job right, players including midfielders to play Amorim's system would be available. They didn't do their job, leading to Amorim not doing his well. Why are they not fired? Can't fire everyone, can you? As much as you think they could be. Like, you just can't. But they have made massive mistakes. Massive mistakes. Once Woozy says, what happened to the Areola hype? Look, I still really like Areola. And again, I'm 50-50 on a lot of managers, and people say I'm sitting on the fence. It's just because I'm not 100% sure. With Areola, things I like is I think he's a very, very good coach, and I think he would be a head coach, which is what Ineos want. He would be a head coach. At Bournemouth, he's had players, his best players just stripped off him over and over and over again. And what he's getting out of that Bournemouth squad, considering the squad he's got, is very, very good. He plays really entertaining football, proper entertaining football, and I think he gets the best out of his players. I really do. Drawbacks with Areola that sort of put me a little bit on the fence is he a big enough character to manage at Manchester United? I'm not sure. Would he be able to get his points across to a Man United squad? Look, his Bournemouth players press you out the park, so much energy. Would he be able to get that out of the Man United squad? And look, it's crazy I'm even saying that, but would the ego allow for it? And is his style of football sustainable at a top club? I really like Areola. I love the way he plays, and I think what he's done with that Bournemouth side, considering all of his best players just get taken off him, is brilliant. But it's a big step up from Bournemouth to Man United, and I just don't know whether his personality would be able to handle it. But I really like him as a coach, and he would be a coach. Jay Wrangle says, if Cobby isn't Man United, then you don't know Man United. Well, I do know Man United. I've been going to Man United all my life, and that's my opinion, so you're allowed yours. Shakil says, all they did is write the season off. Come on. I don't think so. I think people won't like to hear this, but I think they sacked him. And it might be because he came out against the board. You know, it might be. But I would like to think they sacked him because they know that Champions League football is there to be got. And Amorim didn't look like he was on track to get it. And they want to try and salvage the highest possible finishing place for Manchester United. That's what I would like to think. And which I don't think is writing the season off, by the way. I think that's making a decision to try and get you the best possible outcome from the current situation that we're in. JMR says he shouldn't have to prove anything. He should have been back regardless. The border incompetent. I'm sorry, but you do have to prove something as a Man United manager being there for 14 months. You do. You don't just get free passes at Manchester United. What type of football does Egg 123 says, what type of football does Fletcher play? We'll find out. We'll find out. There's rumours it's going to be a 4 at the back, so let's see. The Bang says, another manager, same players, insanity. Awais Dayoub says, Christopher Vivell will be next, 100% will be out. I don't see that. I mean, Nagelsmann is a really interesting one. I know a lot of people like him. I'd be on board with Nagelsmann coming in. He's worked at a top club before. He knows Vivell. Again, it's just a big job for anyone. It's hard to say anyone is 100% going to be right. One person I'm really, really on the fence about is De Zerbi. I'm going to be honest. And I've got to wrap up in a second. I've been going for ages. Poor Adam, our producer, needs to go home. But De Zerbi, there's been so many chats in from you guys. I've had to get through, and it's been a cracking show. But De Zerbi, for me, could either be absolutely brilliant or an absolute car crash. And I just don't think we can afford to take that risk. Tactically, he's had some brilliant moments. He's got the best out of players. People at Brighton raved about him and his ability to read football games and his tactical approach. Players have raved about him. But he's got a big personality. He's spoken out a lot in the past. I really like him. I do. But I just think with the way he sees football and his approach, it would either absolutely take off and would be fantastic, or it'd just be a mess very, very quickly. And I just don't know if United can afford to take that risk. I don't know, but I know he's on the shortlist for sure. Nath Soccer says, I won't mind McKenna, but what this club is doing is absurd. McKenna's another one that's in the mix. And look, McKenna was the brains behind Ollie when Ollie was here, and I love Ollie. And there's a lot of people saying bring Ollie back. For me, I wouldn't. I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he should be sporting director. Rice, Bellingham, who else did he want? Haaland before he got big. When he was at Mulder, he wanted him. Grealish. I love Ollie, but you know everyone knows he was more of a manager, and the coaching staff was Carrick and McKenna. So for me, I think McKenna is good. I just don't know if the job would be too soon for him once again. We need an experienced manager that demands authority, demands respect. Would McKenna be able to do that? I don't know. But I like him as a manager, and I think he's done a super good job. But look, guys, thank you so much for putting your super chats in and getting into the show. I really, 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 really appreciate them all. Look, I know not every single person is going to agree, and that's the whole point of this community. And I know there's some of you that massively just wanted to stick with Amorim, and I can respect that, and I understand where you're coming from. But this is the situation we're in now. We can only go up from here. I've always tried to be a glass half full kind of person. And as much as, yes, I would want a full refresh of the whole club, that just isn't going to happen right now. So I'm trying to look at what the next steps are to get us back on track as quickly as we possibly can. And we need to make sure we get the right manager in. So strap in, everyone. I think that it's going to be a bumpy ride from now until the end of the season. Hopefully Fletcher can put a few wins together. Let's see who the interim's going to be. I beg, do not make another mistake and appoint the right guy. You know, we're not in charge. So we don't know who it's going to be. And it's not up to us. But we can also have opinions about it. But it's up to Ineos and whoever's in charge of making that appointment to do thorough research, thorough background checks, thorough interviews, and make sure this is the right guy. It's really, really important. But look, right now it's a little bit of a mess, and we just got to hang in there till the end of the season, try and get Champions League as much as we can. The Premier League is pretty open, and hopefully start afresh in the summer with a manager that is going to kick on and bring us back to success. But yeah, get in the comments who you think it will be. Very, very strong links to Glasner at this moment in time. If any more news comes out, we'll be bringing it to you. We are all on call to come and bring you the latest breaking news. Goldbridge will be back very shortly with his 8 p.m. show. Stay tuned for that. I'm sure it's going to be a cracker. Smash a like on the video if you've not already. Big H there says, give Xavi what he wants. I've not spoken on Xavi, but it's another one I'd be massively 50-50 on. I just don't know if he'd be able to get the players he needs. I really don't. But look, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Smash a like on the video. Have a lovely week, and I will see you on the next one.